to order. I will go ahead and take the roll. Mayor Schneider? Here. Council President Geary will be joining us today. Mr. Schwartz?
Here.
Mr. Shepherd?
Here.
Mr. Gomez?
Here.
Ms. Garvey?
Here.
And I am here as well. Okay, next up on the agenda is approval and acceptance of the September 11th, 2025 meeting minutes. I circulated a draft copy of the minutes last week and an updated version yesterday. I've also printed physical copies for everyone. Does anyone have any questions or comments on the minutes from the September 11th meeting?
I will say thank you for ending and correcting where I misspelled the name. I apologize.
Absolutely, I'm happy to help. All right, well, hearing no questions, I will look for a motion to approve the September 11th meeting. Second.
The roll.
All right, Mayor Schneider,
Yes.
Mr. Schwartz,
Yes.
Mr. Shepherd,
Yes.
Mr. Gomez,
Yes.
Ms. Garvey,
Yes.
and yes. All right, so the minutes are unanimously approved. On to the report of the financial supervisor. I've kind of outlined some general points to touch on, but I'll kick it over to Anna Mary.
I have one paper I added from the PDF because I missed it. It is right behind your expenses before the reconciliation. It is the street and state highways expenses. So that's what's new in front of you from what went out this week. I do apologize for that. Okay, so we'll go over the financials first. So the attachment A, which is your cash position report. There is no negative fund balances in the unexpended balance column, which is good. The first three funds there are the general, street, and state highway, which are in the financial recovery plan. They all have positive balances with the general fund at about $15.5 million. So the city ended in good shape in all their funds positively. Questions on that one? The next one is the recovery plan revenues versus actual, which is a one sheet one that has all three funds on there. It shows the 2025 recovery plan estimates and then where they end of the year in actuals for these categories. So in the general fund, I'm going to go over some key ones. If you have other questions, I'll try to answer them for you. The first thing I will point out, if you pulled system reports, these would look a little differently. They have some things posted in their charges for services that I moved out of charges for services and put in miscellaneous. The city received a clawback from Paycor, and that is due to the incentive agreement that Paycor didn't meet, so there's a clawback clause. They received over $562,000 into the general fund. That was under charge services. We've moved that to miscellaneous revenues. Also, they received around $29,000 for a car loss, and that was in charge of services, and those were moved to miscellaneous. So basically, I've told you why miscellaneous is so high. It's basically because of clawback of the over 500 grand there. Municipal income tax is your largest revenue source for the city in the general fund. That definitely hit the target and went over a little bit and what was expected. We are going to talk about some large refunds that occurred in the expenses when I get to that, though. Hotel motel tax is lower than expected. That fourth quarter was lower than the other quarters were. This is something to watch and going forward into the future, but that's based on what the estimates were. Again, though, for the overall, they hit their target and went over for the general fund. Charges for services, even with those movements out, did have more collected than they anticipated. And the biggest thing there is the EMS is here, and it was much higher than anticipated. And actually, recreation was up too. There were a lot more programs that were available to the city, and I was told that one of the local basketball courts was closed, and so you had more basketball that was done at the rec department as well. Fees, licenses, and permits. This is one that fluctuates a lot. Why? Because that's where your building permits are. So that depends upon what's going on with the city and who's asking for permits to build. There were three big ones. You had a new development that went in. There was more apartments at the old factory that we've talked about in the past. And then there's townhouse units that were done. So there were some big revenues that came in from that. Investment income, it actually came in about the same as last year, but the estimate was lower because we expected fund balances to be lower, so you wouldn't have as much money to invest. So because they had more fund balances during the year, they were able to have more investments come in, and that's why that's much larger. Any questions on the general fund?
Other,
That's basically from that movement, and it's the clawback that they got over $500,000 for from Paycor. That's a one-time deal. That's not going
Right.
to happen every year.
right.
So other is miscellaneous income. I think you
Mhm.
mentioned as being office.
Yes, other is miscellaneous. My bad. Okay, street and state highway both collected over what they estimated. Street was a little more, but they had revenues that came in from ODOT for $149,000 there too. So all three funds exceeded their revenue expectations, which is what we like to see. Any other questions on revenues? Okay, the next one is C. I did add that page to the back. I'm going to go over the general fund first. This is what the recovery plan had versus what they actually had in expenditures. I can talk about several of these if you would like. What I'm going to concentrate on first is the areas that did exceed. So the expenses in actuality exceeded what was the plan per the FRP. Now, what I will say though, overall, if you looked on page 5 of 5, they did have expenditures lower than the FRP, which is required. So they spent about 93, almost 94% of what was expected from the plan. If you would go to page 2, this is the first one that shows exceeds, and this is the treasurer's earning tax department. I kind of alluded to this. At the end of the year, we had a lot of calls back and forth. We had to do a lot of movement of appropriations to make some payments. There was large income tax refunds that had to go out of the city, over $1 million. There was one that was over $800,000 to one business, I think it was. This is not something we have seen here very often, not at this extent. We were able to move appropriations because I can work with the city to move appropriations within the FRP, the plan, as long as they don't go over the overall amount. So we had many conversations about that and some other things. So they had really large refunds that went out. If there's other questions on that, I know the treasurer's department is here. So does anybody else have any other questions about the refunds?
Guess I'd like a little more clarity just overall.
Are you fine with them,
Yeah, absolutely.
Mr. Bonville?
Yeah, excuse me. Thank you so much. So, companies provide estimates to us in usually around the March timeframe, where they will estimate how much they think that their books are going to be for the year before. There was one company that used to have a lot of employees in the city that has, since most of those employees are work at home, in their internal accounting for how they account for net profit. With Ohio has a formula for that. They had not really changed that formula. They were still accounting for all of these employees still working in the city versus working elsewhere. And once they hired an accounting firm to look at that, they made changes and they were still able to adjust tax year 2024. So they did adjust it when they filed in October and then requested the refund. So that's kind of where that came from. That is not normal. We'll likely get a little bit less from that company going forward, but we were as shocked as you probably would be, right, seeing a number like that. But we reviewed it all. We talked to their accountants about it, made sure that everything was in order. But essentially everything matched with their federal return matches. So there's not a lot of choices we have to do anything but pay it.
So in layman's terms, is this, we over-recognize revenue, tax revenue, and then we had to give it back?
That's a better way to put it. They over-reported the amount of revenue, and then in their final return, they requested a refund for some of that over-reporting. Thank you.
Okay. Page 3, we have our second exceeds, which is the fire department. Couple of different things happened here. It was really in personal services and supplies and materials. In personal services, they had higher than expected overtime. Minimum manning went from 12 to 13. They had some medical issues, I will say, and so that's what caused some of the overtime. And with that, that also increased pension that was required as well. That went over for the year. We had lots of calls about that at the end of the year too, and we had to move several appropriations around for not only refunds, but also not only in that department, but other departments for pension and other needs. Supplies and materials was higher than expected, and that was due to PPE, which is personal protective equipment that was in need before the end of December. Any questions about the fire department? This is being looked at by all who are working on the FRP currently. I do not have exceeds on page 4 or 5, but I am going to talk about 2 departments here. Street and public lands and buildings. They were below what was expected, but there were 2 large projects in these 2 departments. You probably saw one, I think is one out here that's being done. And then there's another one. This was expected to be done in 25, but it was not done in 25. It is carrying forward into 2026. And so that is one of the things that we had to work with them with setting up their 26 appropriations and then making sure that that is now clearly shown in 26 is also being worked on as well as a project. Okay, page 5 is our other exceeds, which is the health administration department. It went slightly over. Most of this is personal services, health insurance, which was higher than expected in this department. Questions about the general fund? On anything I did go over or anything I did not go over.
I'm just looking back at the cash balances that you first started with, or the unexpended balance. Do you
Yes.
know, because like for instance, in the general fund there, we went from 16.8 balance to 15.5.
Mhm.
Do you know how that compares to the prior year? Was it also like declining balance, or did it go up and now we're just kind of evening out?
I'd have to look back, and I know that I've seen it because of the FRP. I think we're around the same amount. I think it was around 14, 15, 16 million. The plan was really looking to decrease the amount that was in the balances because of all the capital and other things that the city had planned. So actually that is much higher than I think we expected it to be.
Okay.
So for now, yes, it's trending about the same as what I would say. We can, when we get to the FRP, when it's finally submitted, I think you'll see that trend a lot better. But the plan was to spend those down. And then I think in the 5th year, in the last plan, we're supposed to be like at $1 to $2 million, which hopefully is around a 3-month carryover for them. Does that answer your question?
Okay. Yes. Thanks.
Okay, the extra page that I gave you guys, which shows the street and state highway, there was no overexpending there. They are working in Fund 2. They had 2 projects, which I think it goes along with what the general fund is doing. That is the Montgomery Road Urban Paving Project and the Montgomery Road Pedestrian Safety Improvement as well. And that's carrying forward. And then in Fund 3, there was some road planning and design work that was supposed to be done that wasn't done during the year. And that's why those expenditures are less than expected. Yes, sir.
Is it, I'm looking back at December 17th of 2017. Is it possible that the general fund unexpended balance was the 1.1 million negative?
It was negative one time. I don't know off the top of my head.
So 15 positive.
Yeah.
Better.
Yes.
But we're trying
Yes.
to reduce it. So,
Tom, what we talked about the last couple of meetings is that in the 5-year budget is that step down of that number where it goes from 15 and then all of a sudden it's 1.
Right.
And it's like,
Yeah.
I know we're doing a lot of capital projects, but that remains a
I'm just
concern.
reflecting back on
Yeah.
where all this.
Yes. Any other questions about expenditures? Okay, the last one is the bank reconciliation, which is going to hit 2 points, financials and progress on the bank reconciliation that is listed on your agenda. You have September in front of you of 2025. That is the latest reconciliation that was actually done this week. This is behind. They are working and I've seen progress in the last couple of months and they've whittled down how far behind they are. We had a conversation this week on a plan when December would be potentially done, and we're looking at the end of April at the very latest to have the last 3 months of the year reconciled, and then pushing forward to get 2026 updated and more month to month. So do you have questions on that? And I do have the treasurer's office here if you need to address them again. Yes, sir.
I have a comment. First of all, I'm looking at the reconciling items, and it seems like that amount, last recollection was 20,000 or somewhere in that. Now it's 119,000. So that's concerning. Also, I'd say the time it takes to do the bank rec has been an ongoing issue, and we've kind of gone up and down over the last several years trying to catch that up. Speaking to that, I guess, what is the ultimate plan or thought of when we might be able to do those 15 days after the month end and consistently?
Would you like the treasurer to address that?
Yeah.
Because I know that there is a plan. So thank you, James.
Thank you so much. I agree that the where we're at with the bank reconciliations is not acceptable. We've got a few plans that we're working on. The bank reconciliations have been over the last few years done by our lead tax clerk. She had also done that while she was also doing various tax duties as well. She is completely dedicated now to bank reconciliations. We're also in the new plan that will come to you all. We're going to separate out the tax commissioner role from being tax and treasury to being just taxes only. So we're going to hire a deputy treasurer. So that deputy treasurer is going to be in charge of kind of managing the investments at the city, the bank reconciliation process, and just all the treasury aspects in general. I think that's going to be a great move. We're going to we'll do that in a very neutral way when it comes to expenditures due to, we're going to go one less tax clerk. So since the lead tax clerk today is kind of doing treasury things, we'll go down to tax clerk so that we can have a manager that's just focused on treasury related items. As far as when we'll be up to date, I expect by the end of June that we will be completely up to date, if not sooner, and be at the point where it'll be done on the 15th of the month. And then at that point too, we'll also implement a daily reconciliation process, which will basically, they'll work with the auditor's office on a very regular basis to do a test reconciliation almost to make sure that we are finding issues as they happen. So to your statement about the past reconciling items, we are working through some of those. Some of those I will need some a little bit of assistance with the financial supervisors, and we're gonna get to those. But we are working on whittling some of those down as we can. We've got a list to the auditor's office too of the one that's like before November 22, I think. But we have a list of things that we've identified there that we need to get corrected in the books as well. So we are working really hard on that. We think the deputy treasurer is going to help us a lot, and yeah, I expect by this summer we completely caught up.
So, quick question, James, if I can ask.
Go ahead.
It's your turn.
So are all these reconciled items from November 2022 and prior?
The last number listed, yes.
So that's 3.5 years?
I would have to go back
Okay, well, I guess
on
if
how
that
far
is,
the,
if that
I
is,
can answer that more than he probably can on that one. You can.
all right.
But
Well, I guess it's just kind of in general. I mean, that's 3.5 years ago. I mean, the odds of going back and finding these things, I would say, is somewhat remote, given the time and but the amount obviously is significant. Another thing I would point out too is we have 88 cents, 2 cents, $52, $60. Does it make any sense to just blow all these little items away and just clean them out and just flush the difference? I mean,
they will have to address those. They should have already known what those are. So when you're behind on a reconciliation, you don't know that you have these issues. I'll say that. So once you know that they're there, then you should work to fix those. So they can be fixing those in 26. They can't go back to 25 and fix it.
Yeah, that's
so,
fine, but I mean, a
but
penny, 10 cents.
They have.
I mean, why do we care?
I do. The audit
Well,
does
I know, but
too.
that's penny wise, pound foolish, in my opinion.
Right,
mean,
I understand.
care about the
They
six
need
figures,
to,
not
when
the
the reconciling items
the
are
nickels.
shown, then they should be fixing them before the following month. So as they're finding these, and you fix them. So we're behind, so you won't see the fix until 26. Is I guess my point. But that is required that they do that. The old one, I know there's been with the past deputy auditor, there was review of that, and we need to bring that back to the forefront and they look at that. If they cannot figure out what all is going on and what the fixes need to be, we can talk about a one-time only adjustment with their auditors. But that can't be done until we have those conversations. And I think I've talked about that many years ago, but you have to be ready to write it off. You can't write off every month stuff. You have to fix what's there. Does that make sense? At least for the government.
Yeah, I still think this is, I mean, these amounts are immaterial.
They are.
So regardless of the reason, I mean, I don't think anybody would have a problem with just getting rid of those. I mean, just for the sake of having a better looking bank rec and just focusing on the items that are actually significant. But that's my opinion.
The treasurer's office and the auditor's office will have to address those and fix them as they are showing up as reconciling items.
Okay.
Any other public business would write them off. Would just move forward. Wouldn't spend a minute messing with something like that. But
I wouldn't
that's
even,
not
yeah.
how the in the municipal management, that's not the way it's got to go.
Anything else on the bank reconciliation? Report on accounting methods. I do not have a paper in front of you. The focus has not been that. There's been some key personnel that have had switches in several departments, key departments. The focus needs to be on getting those policies and procedures in place. And I know that the city auditor, we talked about it this week, there's a plan in place to help move those forward finally in this upcoming year, and in talks with some help that he's going to get in that regard. So with all the phone calls issues, appropriation changes, FRP, debt that's come across my table since this end of November, December, January, and February, we have not been down to test anything because the focus has been other needs of the city at this time. And then we really need those policies and procedures written, gone through with us, put in place, and then we test as they put them into fruition. So any other questions on the report on accounting methods? And the city auditor is here if you have questions for him.
Any kind of timeline on when we think we might be done with that piece of the puzzle?
Can he speak?
Yeah, absolutely.
Ken?
Good morning. Thank you. Just within the last week, Brad, we've signed a contract with Shared Resource Center out of Dayton, and these are individuals that are finance directors. What we're going to do beginning next week is we're going to sit down and start going over these together and get some assistance from them that start taking care of these. As you know, there's 34 of them. Many of them kind of low-hanging fruit. We've taken care of those, but there are some capital assets. I think there's 6 on there for that we're going to be working on together. Also, purchasing policies and procedures. And then I might add that we have implemented through SSI VIP, our software, we've implemented a module called Workflow, which will help us with our purchasing policies and procedures. It's kind of a digital, the requisitions are sent through electronically, they're approved electronically. So to do those policies and procedures, we wanted to make sure we had that implemented first. And so we're going to be using that to bring those to the auditor state.
Good.
Any other questions? Thank you, Ken.
Overall, you think in a couple years, 2-3 years?
My goal.
I mean, I'm not putting you on the spot
No.
here. I'm just trying.
And I was talking with Chris this morning. Our goal is to have this done this fiscal year. We want to have these
12/31.
Yeah, there's no reason why we can't focus on this, get these done, and then we can test them internally, and then we have the auditor state come and test them, and that's hopefully our exit strategy.
Sounds like a plan.
Thank you.
Music to my ears.
Mine too.
Thank you.
Up next is an update on the FRP. I received a full draft on the day before Valentine's Day on the 13th. We started review on that Tuesday because President's Day on the holiday. They received comments, questions, fixes on this Monday, March the 2nd from my office. I received back a new and improved FRP from the city on Wednesday night. We started working through those, all the comments and what was fixed yesterday. I'm hopeful to have it back to the city by Monday or Tuesday. with any other things. I've only been through a little bit of it from yesterday. So, and if there's more stuff, then we'll talk about what still needs fixed or still have questions on. That's where we are right now on the FRPs. Any other questions on that?
What is the timeline for us getting a plan, reviewing the plan, approving the plan? I know in past years it's been like the March. It's got to be approved by March for the state.
Council has to approve it for the end of March, and then the commission approved it last year in April. So the timeline depends on the next version ICA, if there's more fixes, and then when it can get to council, and then it would have to come to commission, and I can't answer all those.
Is there a deadline from the state that this needs to be done
Yes,
by
there
X?
is.
And what is that?
We have to approve one every year. Last year's we approved on April 27th, I believe.
Right. And that was a little late, I think,
It was.
compared to
yeah.
past years.
But it sounds like we're tracking to do it on time this year. As far as scheduling for the next meeting, I'll probably ask everyone to be a little flexible when we leave here today, just so we can see how that continues to develop. And then we'll schedule a meeting as soon as we can after the council has approved the FRP.
And there's no hard deadline. It's just as long as you're working on it, you're close, you're right there. As long as you're in the neighborhood, you're good,
Yeah,
so to speak.
generally, yes.
Okay.
There are some measures that the state can take if things are to, I would say, continue on a downward path. But those are not something that we've needed here by.
Thank you.
Auditor State's engagement letter. So every year we have an engagement letter that's done in the first part of the year for our services while you're in fiscal emergency. It is a cost that is paid by the city. It is the exact same letter as last year with new dates. It's the exact same price of $50,000 to cover our office's calls, helps, appropriations, reviews, FRP reviews, all of that. So Nathan has that in front of him. Any questions on that?
I'll be signing a copy of it after the meeting today, and then I believe the auditor will sign it as well. I'd be happy to transmit a copy after it's signed to everyone in the group.
That's a 1-year deal, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's all I had, unless you guys have other questions for me. I tried.
Nothing for me. All right. Seeing no other questions, I will turn it over to Mayor Schneider for a report of the mayor.
Thank you. Got my formal report right here. I would like to talk a little bit about the treasurer Bonds will talk about having a district or a deputy treasurer in place to work and to make sure that office is running as efficiently as possible. And I know he's made strides throughout the year. Since he took over, he's made strides, great strides in that office to get staffing in place and to get people, capable people of doing the job and work of the treasurer's office. The same holds true for Ken Miracle's office with the auditor's office. And I think Dr. Crambrisi's here and Ken's here. And, you know, there's many people in his office. There's been a lot of change within both of the, what I would consider the financial offices for the city. Ken Miracle has been putting in a lot more time in the space and taking care of things and getting, basically activating the software and activating all the different systems that we've maybe had in place but haven't taken full advantage of, and there to answer questions from his staff. So I really think it's been there's a lot of changes going on in both of those places, and they are both working together. When you talk about James Bonzo and Ken Miracle, both of them are gentlemen who are working, and they recognize, you know, that they sort of have to work hand in hand, and they've been working extremely well together. And that is extremely refreshing when you have two departments that are really trying to help each other and working in the same direction and learning from each other. I mean, there's a lot that James, from being a former council member and being involved in the finance committee, brings to the table, and then there's much that Ken brings to the table with his accounting background and all that he's done over his career. So it's pretty incredible to have those two departments working so well together. Departments working closely, the auditor and treasurers, but then also the payroll from the auditor's office, the payroll administrator, the payroll, as well as the HR director working together, because, you know, these are union contracts, they're civil service positions. There's a lot of different moving parts to the contracts, and that have a lot to do with the payroll administrator. So those two working well together, and then those departments running together. The other part that I look at is the FRP formation. This year, it's been, I would say, night and day difference in the way that the FRP was formulated. It's the same. You'll see the same spreadsheets, but it started out with, you know, the safety service director going to all the department heads, and the department heads putting in information and what they're trying to accomplish and what they need. And then even at the front part, there were members of council that were involved in putting some information in and helping formulate this. And then it's been discussed with the finance committee many times over this period. We've got the budget director. Clint Zimmerman has changed his role and is now the budget director with a degree in accounting also. So we've got a person that is full-time spearheading, making sure that this is put together properly. So the auditor, the treasurer's office, the finance committee, the council members, the safety service director, all the department heads, all of these people have had input into it. And I really feel like we're in a better place when you talk about, you know, it was April and it was March, and, you know, I feel like we're in a much better place. And every year I've said, this is a good FRP. We put together a good plan, but every year after it's signed, 3 things come up, you know, within the next 2 weeks. And I'm like, oh man, we should have had that in there. We should have recognized this was there. And that's always going to happen. But I feel like this time it's being put really through a more rigorous and more eyes on it, and more people recognizing we need to add this, or this is not something we need this year. So when you do see the FRP, with your help every year, I know you review it and give us, I think the last one I got from you last year was like 20 pages long. I'm sure it's 20 pages again. But the state auditor's office does a very rigorous deep dive into this thing and finds areas, and has found many times, you know, areas that need to be corrected, whether it's just a formula or whether it's just the money, the numbers were put in the wrong place, like she was talking about the miscellaneous income and where things should be reported. But I think the financial recovery plan is the reason why, when we talk about this project outside, you know, the pedestrian improvement project and all Montgomery Road and all the enhancements that are going on, we would have never had the money if we didn't. And Mr. Bonzel was involved in this at the very beginning as the finance committee chairperson on council. He was involved in the very beginning, and really, and even Jim Stith as the previous auditor, they were instrumental in making some real changes that have led to the city's prosperity. Now, not to say that our people, you know, since I've been here, we put a lot of good people in place, and they've done a lot of strong work financially to make sure the city's in a better position. But when you do see the FRP recognize, there's been a ton of time and effort put into getting this thing just in front of you guys. And of course, it's got to go in front of city council, and the finance committee will look at it, but it's got to go in front of city council and be approved by city council before it even gets to you guys. So there's a lot to be said with this. I cringe when you know, Ken said, we're going to have all this stuff, we're going to have all these accounting methods completed by the end of the year. I cringe because it doesn't. I look at that and say, like, every time we do it, it's all about testing. It's all about they've got to test it. We've got to make sure it's sustainable. We got to make sure so even if it's done at the end of the year, I'd love to be out of the fiscal emergency that the city's been in. I think when you have what I consider to be strong financials and a strong financial standing right now, I'd love to be out of it. But I still look at it and say, when I leave office, if we're out of the fiscal emergency, I'll be really surprised. I think the next mayor will take it on, same as I took it on from the last one. And because I just don't feel like the testing will never end. There's always improvements that need to be made. And so we'll see, but we've got better structure now than we've ever had, in my opinion, in the history of the city. We've never had the financial structure and the people there to watch and to put the programs in place and to really take advantage and leverage what we have in the best way, shape, or form. So, to be positive about it, I think we're moving in the right direction, continue to move in the right direction. So that's all I have. That's all the notes I had here.
Thank you, Miller. All right. Seeing as council president here is not able to be with us today, good luck to his son's bowling team. I had one housekeeping item before we move to adjourn. So I mentioned that I would like to be a little flexible with our next meeting just because of the FRP process. So I will try to keep in good contact with everyone as we move to get that scheduled. After that, I would like to start scheduling quarterly meetings just so we have a regular touch point. But I just wanted to get that on everyone's mind before we leave today. If anyone has any other questions or comments? If not, I will look for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All right. Call the roll. Mr. Schneider?
Yes.
Mr. Schwartz?
Yes.
Mr. Shepherd?
Yes.
Mr. Gomez?
Yes.
Ms. Garvey?
Yes.
And I'm yes, we are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.